My boyfriend doesn't want to let me get a piercing. What should I do? It all started on an unremarkable Tuesday afternoon. I was sprawled out on my bed, sunlight filtering through my lace curtains, casting a dreamy, golden glow across my room. The gentle hum of a fan provided a soothing background noise as I scrolled through Instagram, diving into the world of piercing inspiration. My septum ring caught the light, a tiny sparkle that always reminded me of my adventurous spirit. I had my septum, dimples, and ears pierced, each one a tiny milestone on my journey to self-expression. But today, I felt an itch, a longing for something more. I wanted new piercings. The idea had been brewing in my mind for weeks, each new picture on my feed fueling my excitement. Intricate helix studs, elegant nose rings, and even bold eyebrow piercings seemed to beckon to me. Each one was a new opportunity to express who I was, a new way to adorn the canvas of my body. As I lay there, dreaming about the possibilities, I knew I had to bring it up with Jake, my boyfriend of almost 2 years. Jake was a solid guy, dependable and loving, but he was also in the military, and sometimes that rigidity seeped into our relationship. It wasn't always easy, but we'd made it work because we loved each other deeply. But I had no idea how he would react to this. Later that evening, when Jake came home from his errands, I decided it was time to broach the subject. I waited until he'd set down the groceries and was making himself a sandwich, hoping to catch him in a good mood. "Hey babe," I started, trying to sound casual. "I've been thinking about getting some new piercings." He paused, mid-spread, looking up at me with a curious but cautious expression. "What kind of piercings?" he asked, his tone giving nothing away. "Oh, just a few more on my ears, maybe another one on my nose," I said, trying to keep the excitement out of my voice. "I think it would really complete my look, make me feel more like myself, you know?" Jake set down the knife, his brow furrowing. "I like the piercings you have now. Why do you need more?" "It's not about needing more," I explained, showing him some of the pictures I'd saved. "It's about expressing myself, feeling more like me." He studied the images, his frown deepening. "I don't know. I like you the way you are. Why change it?" I felt a pang of frustration, but tried to keep my voice calm. "I'm not changing who I am. I'm just adding to how I express myself. It's something I want to do for me." Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I just don't think it's a good idea. You're great the way you are, and I don't see why you need to add more metal to your face." The conversation ended there, unresolved and tense. I didn't want to fight, so I let it drop, hoping he'd come around eventually. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this was important, something I needed to do for myself. That night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of determination. I called my mom the next day, hoping for some support. She was a free spirit, always encouraging me to be myself, and she didn't disappoint. "If it makes you happy, go for it," she said, her voice warm and reassuring. "You've always been good at knowing what you want." I also reached out to a couple of friends, sharing my thoughts and concerns. They were equally supportive, telling me that it was my body and my choice. "Jake should respect that," my best friend said, her voice firm. "It's not like you're doing anything harmful. It's just piercings." Buoyed by their encouragement, I felt a renewed sense of determination. I loved Jake, but this was about my body and my choices. I decided I would go ahead with the piercings, hoping he would understand eventually. The next morning, I told Jake about my decision. He was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping his coffee and reading the news on his phone. I took a deep breath and said, "I've decided I'm going to get the piercings." His reaction was immediate and intense. He set his cup down with a clatter, staring at me with a mix of disbelief and anger. "So, you're just going to ignore how I feel about this? That's really disrespectful, you know." I was taken aback by his vehemence. "I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I listened to your concerns, but this is something important to me." Jake's face turned red with frustration. "If you do this, there will be consequences. You can't just do whatever you want without considering how it affects me." I was stunned. "Consequences? What are you talking about?" He threw his hands up in exasperation. You're acting like your decisions don't impact me. This is a relationship. We're supposed to be a team, not two individuals doing whatever we want. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my own anger in check. I've always respected your opinions and your feelings. But this is about my body. I have to make decisions that are right for me. Jake's eyes narrowed. Fine. If you can do whatever you want, then so can I. Don't expect me to ask for your opinion on anything I decide to do from now on. His words stung. It felt like he was trying to twist my actions into a betrayal of our relationship. That's not what this is about, I insisted. I'm not saying you can't have a say in things that affect us both, but this is my body, Jake. I have to make decisions that are right for me. He crossed his arms, a look of hurt and anger on his face. Well, your mindset is going to destroy our relationship. We're supposed to be one, not two people living separate lives. I worked my ass off for us, and this is the thanks I get. No respect, no boundaries. This isn't healthy, and I don't want to live like this. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I'm not trying to disrespect you, but I won't let you control me either. I've always supported you and respected your choices. I need you to do the same for me. The argument ended with Jake storming out of the apartment, leaving me feeling shattered and confused. I sat on the couch, staring at the door, wondering how something as simple as a few piercings had turned into such a massive issue. I knew I had to stand my ground, but the fear of losing Jake hung heavy in the air. Over the next few days, things were tense between us. Jake was distant, barely speaking to me, and when he did, it was curt and strained. I tried to reach out, to talk and find some common ground, but he wasn't interested. He seemed to be punishing me with his silence, a tactic that felt both childish and deeply hurtful. Finally, after a particularly cold dinner together, I couldn't take it anymore. Jake, we need to talk about this, I said, setting my fork down and looking at him across the table. He didn't look up from his plate. What's there to talk about? You've made your decision. I don't want us to be like this, I said, my voice breaking. I love you, and I want to find a way through this together. He finally looked up, his eyes filled with a mix of hurt and stubbornness. You've made it clear how little my feelings matter to you. That's not true, I protested. I care about your feelings, but I also have to take care of myself. This is about me expressing who I am. Jake pushed his plate away, standing up abruptly. I can't do this anymore, he said, his voice cold. I need some time to think. He walked out of the apartment, leaving me feeling more alone than ever. I sat there in the silence, tears streaming down my face. I didn't know what to do or how to fix this. All I knew was that I couldn't compromise my sense of self, even for someone I loved deeply. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Jake stayed away, crashing at a friend's place, and we barely spoke. I felt a mixture of anger and sadness, wondering if our relationship was crumbling over something that felt so deeply personal to me. I made an appointment at the piercing studio, deciding that I couldn't put my life on hold waiting for Jake to come around. As I sat in the chair, the familiar hum of the tattoo machines in the background, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The piercer was gentle and professional, and as he worked, I focused on the idea of reclaiming a part of myself. When it was over, I looked in the mirror, admiring the new additions to my collection. They were beautiful, and I felt a surge of pride and satisfaction. This was me, and I wouldn't let anyone take that away. As I left the studio, the fresh piercings tingling slightly, I knew I had made the right decision. Jake and I would have to find a way to navigate this, or we wouldn't, but either way, I had to stay true to myself. When I got home, Jake was waiting for me. He looked tired and worn, a deep sadness in his eyes. We need to talk, he said, his voice softer than it had been in days. I nodded, sitting down on the couch. Yes, we do. He took a deep breath, sitting across from me. I've been thinking a lot. I don't like that you went ahead with the piercings, but I can see that it's important to you. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. It is. But that doesn't mean I don't care about you or your feelings. Jake looked down at his hands, twisting them nervously. I know I've been a jerk about this. I just, I get scared when things change, especially things about you. I love you the way you are, and I guess I was afraid you were changing in a way I couldn't handle. I'm still me, I said gently. Piercings don't change who I am inside. I need you to trust that. He nodded slowly, looking up at me with a tentative smile. I'm going to try. I don't want to lose you over something like this. I love you too much. I love you too, I said, reaching out to take his hand. We'll figure this out together. As we sat there, holding hands and talking late into the night, I felt a glimmer of hope. We weren't perfect, and we had a lot to work through, but we were willing to try. And that, I realized, was the most important thing. The days that followed were a delicate dance of rebuilding trust and understanding. Jake still had his reservations, and I still felt the sting of his earlier reactions, but we were talking more openly than we had in a long time. It felt like a breakthrough, a chance to reconnect on a deeper level. We both realized that our relationship wasn't just about the big gestures or major decisions, but about respecting each other's individuality and choices. One evening, as we sat on the balcony of our apartment, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance, Jake took my hand. I've been thinking, he said, his voice contemplative. Maybe we need to set some boundaries, but in a way that respects both of us. I looked at him, surprised but hopeful. What do you mean? I mean, maybe we need to talk more about how we make decisions, he said, squeezing my hand. About how we can support each other's choices without feeling like we're losing something. I nodded, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I'd like that. I think we both need to feel heard and respected. We spent that night talking, really talking, about our fears, our hopes, and what we wanted from our relationship. It was raw and honest, sometimes painful, but it was also healing. We didn't have all the answers, but we were willing to find them together. As the weeks went by, we found a new rhythm. Jake became more supportive, and I made an effort to include him in my decisions in a way that didn't make me feel like I was giving up my autonomy. It wasn't always easy, but it was worth it. One day, as we were getting ready to go out for dinner, Jake surprised me. You know, he said, watching me adjust my new earrings in the mirror, those actually look pretty cool. I turned to look at him, a smile spreading across my face. Really? Yeah, he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. I can see why you wanted them. They suit you. I felt a warmth spread through me, a sense of relief and happiness. Thank you, I said, leaning into his embrace. That means a lot to me. In that moment, I realized that our relationship had grown stronger through this ordeal. We had learned to navigate our differences, to respect each other's individuality while still being a team. It wasn't about controlling each other or imposing our wills, but about supporting and understanding each other. As we headed out the door, hand in hand, I felt a renewed sense of optimism. Our love was evolving, and so were we. And while the road ahead would undoubtedly have its challenges, I knew that we could face them together, with respect and love guiding us. Months passed, and we continued to grow together. Jake was deployed for a few months, and during that time, we wrote letters and video chatted whenever we could. His absence gave me time to reflect on our relationship and my own personal growth. I explored new hobbies, made new friends, and continued to express myself in ways that felt authentic to me. When Jake returned, he was different too. The time apart had given him a new perspective, and he was more open and understanding. We spent long evenings catching up, sharing our experiences, and dreaming about the future. It was a beautiful time, a period of renewal and deepening love. One evening, as we lay on the couch, wrapped up in each other's arms, Jake looked at me with a serious expression. I want us to always be honest with each other, he said, even when it's hard. I want us to keep growing together, but also as individuals. I nodded, feeling tears of gratitude well up in my eyes. I want that too. I think we're stronger now because we faced this challenge together. He kissed me gently, his eyes soft with affection. I love you, he whispered, all of you. The way you express yourself, the way you stand up for what you believe in, it's what makes you, you. I love you too, I said, my heart swelling with emotion. Thank you for understanding, for being willing to grow with me. As we lay there, basking in the warmth of our renewed connection, I realized that our relationship was a journey, one that required constant effort, understanding, and love. We weren't perfect, and we never would be, but we were committed to navigating life's challenges together. In the end, it wasn't just about the piercings. It was about respect, communication, and the willingness to embrace change. We had learned that our relationship could survive even the toughest of disagreements if we approached them with love and an open heart. And as I looked at Jake, his eyes filled with love and acceptance, I knew that we had built something beautiful, something worth fighting for. Our love was evolving, and so were we, and I couldn't wait to see where our journey would take us next. Months turned into years, and our relationship continued to thrive. We faced new challenges, celebrated new milestones, and continued to grow both as individuals and as a couple. The piercings that had once caused so much tension became a symbol of our journey, a reminder of how far we had come. One day, as we were sitting on a park bench, watching the sunset, Jake turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "You know," he said, his voice soft, "I've been thinking about getting a tattoo. Something to symbolize our journey together." I looked at him, surprised but excited. "Really, what kind of tattoo?" He smiled, taking my hand. "I'm not sure yet. But I want it to be something that represents us. Our love, our growth, everything we've been through together." Tears welled up in my eyes as I squeezed his hand. "I think that's a beautiful idea. I'd love to do that with you." As we sat there, dreaming about the future and the new ways we would continue to express our love, I felt a deep sense of contentment. Our journey had been filled with ups and downs, but it had made us stronger, more connected, and more in love than ever before. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the park, I knew that our love story was far from over. We had faced the storms together and emerged stronger on the other side, ready to embrace whatever the future held, hand in hand.